Hi, this is Lucky Robin, and this is update 5 for the 2020 organic garden. You can see I've planted quite a bit more in totes. I have a stylus tomato. I've never planted that one before, but it said it was good for beginning gardeners because it didn't have a lot of issues and it produced really well. It's a determinate, so it's not going to get huge. And obviously I'm not a beginner gardener, but having a trouble-free tomato, if this turns out well, I'd like a lot. So I've got basil in here. I planted some opal basil, some sweet Orient basil, and some Genovese basil. Then I have 2 cilantros in these front pots. These are the starts that I still need to plant. I've got chard, spinach, broccoli, and calendula. My rosemary plant survived the transplant. Yeah, that is a rosemary plant. It gets quite large. Not all rosemary do. This one does. It's Rosemary officinalis. I planted another tomato over here. The yellow pear, and this one can get up to 8 feet tall. I did not have a big enough frame to put around it, so I zip tied 2 of them together to make it tall enough. You do what you gotta do. Patty pan squash is starting to look a little bit better. It got really super yellow. I need to get some more fertilizer on it and should help. Got celery planted. Now this was a 6-pack that happened to have 7 celery in it, plus something else that looks like it belongs in the brassica family. So we'll see what that turns out to be. It looks like a few of the nasturtium seeds are starting to come up in here. The thyme is flowering, but it survived the transplant nicely. So did the sage. And then I tucked a new parsley back here. This is a forest green parsley. It's a curly parsley, I believe, not a flat leaf. And then I wasn't sure if the yarrow would survive the transplant, but it seems to be doing okay. This little one down here is flowering. Got some lemon basil in here. Chives survived the transplant, still really good. And there's a lone poppy that was growing down by the gas meter. It was growing on a piece of plastic that had some dirt in it. Wasn't doing great, but I transplanted into here and it's doing a lot better. And I've got this old this doesn't work anymore, but it is a temperature gauge, and it's kind of acting as a bit of a windbreak for the poppy. And in here, the kale's come back really nicely from the transplant, and so has the blood vein sorrel. And so apparently has this weed here. Pull that thing out. Okay, and there's 2 more lemon basil in there and some marjoram. And then these are some beet transplants. They're a little worse for wear, but they seem to be surviving. And then there are beets coming up in here as well. These are all golden beets. And this is my dwarf oregano, my spearmint and peppermint, the kohlrabi. I'm not sure if that was in the last update or not. Got my lettuce in there, and then cucumber that's market more in the back. And then I had 2 seed packets that got wet. I put them in here. It looks like only one type made it, unless that right there is a different type. None of the ones that were planted in front seem to be coming up, so I might plant something different in the front. Alright. Nature will out. There's lemon balm and a form of geranium growing down there. And you can see that the strawberries got really, really big. These are Seascape. And you see the biggest difference over here. still got to take care of this mess. Gonna save this red astilbe and this yellow astilbe. And once those irises are done, we're gonna dig them up, separate them into smaller bulb clusters and replant them. And we're gonna clean all the buttercup out of here. So the 2 astilbes will be transplanted up front. But over here, okay, we haven't gotten this part by the stairs yet, but that's on today's agenda. But we've completely cleared out this flower bed, took out the lilacs that were in here, and a couple other pernicious things, and some kind of crazy bulbing thing that my mother really wanted to get rid of. I thought they were pretty, but she hated having them in there. So we got all of this out, my son and I, and then we planted petunias all the way down. These are wave petunias, so they will spread out 12 to 18 inches each plant. Yeah, the potato bed was finally finished. We put a bunch of soil down from that far garden bed that's now gone, and then we put 10 bags of steer manure down here and rototilled it all in. And so far we have planted 5 rows of potatoes. We've got 3 reds, 1 russet, and 1 yellow, and we're waiting on some sprouting potatoes to get the sprouts just a little bit larger. We have more red and we have more yellow. We have not been able to find russet, but I'm hoping I can find some organic russets and then just get them in. We'll have some late potatoes, but that's okay because our last frost date never comes before Halloween. So, and sometimes it goes all the way to the end of November. Don't know what it's going to do this year. So, so that half of the flower bed's done, and we still have to pull out everything that's in this half. Yeah, it's partly done. This is where one of the lilacs was. This one has to be dug out still, the roots. And then all that junk on the end. And then, yeah, so that's where the one raised bed was. There's a lot of roots in the ground from that big old cedar tree. And then this got completely weeded out. Yeah, the beans, there's a lot of beans coming up. There's also a lot of weeds coming up. So we're gonna have to come in here and get these little weeds out. Not all the beans have come up, but of the seeds I planted. Sometimes they just take a long time. But the ones that have come up are doing really well. And this seed was like fresh last year, so it may not have quite as good a germination, but usually the second year it does pretty well. My sort of broken larkspur is blooming. And the bee balm's getting bigger, but all of the corn is up. Some of it's quite a bit bigger than others, but we didn't not germinate a single seed, so that's awesome. Raspberries just get thicker and thicker. Still need to get these weeds out of here though. The ones we transplanted are doing great. The echinacea has not started to really form flower heads yet, but they'll come out of the center. And then the gold rush zucchini is now completely green. There's no yellowing on it at all, so it's doing very well. Now over here we finally got this weed eated, and we put down the boards from the old broken raised beds to kill the weeds. We're gonna have to put something down to cover the cracks as well. Just haven't gotten to that stage yet. That's still up. Fennel and lemon balm are both doing pretty okay in these pots, but these want to flower. You can see there's plenty of strawberries in these 2 planters. And the roses are in bloom. I wish you could smell these because they smell glorious. This mess still hasn't been cleared out, but we're getting it everywhere, slowly but surely. So peppers are doing good, especially that one in the middle. It's actually got a pepper developing on it. I haven't pulled any of the flowers off to get these plants bigger yet, and I need to. I really do. where they're just going to be short and spindly plants, and I don't want that. No red strawberries yet, but there's all kinds of yellow ones in here. The 2 San Marzanos are doing pretty well. I've got to get out and weed this bucket. And then the cucumbers are a little scorched, so it might be getting a little too much sun here, and I need to weed this whole area. This stuff's all growing up in the strawberries. This is the Secret Sunrise. And then the peas have grown quite a bit since last week. And over here, the big boy has fallen quite a bit behind the early girl. It has really just taken off and run with it. So, got a lot of this area weeded now. We'll go back to the apple tree first. Won't go back to the compost because nothing's been done. But there's a lot more apples visible now on the tree than last week. They were so tiny, some of them last week. But it looks like we're going to have a bumper crop of apples. Probably use that green corrugated roofing to go cover the cracks on the boards we laid down. And just doing a quick check for tent caterpillars. I don't see any, but this tree has been susceptible to them the last 2 years. Alright, so you can see there's a ton of blueberries on here. This is going to be loaded. And still haven't gotten that taken down, but it's on the agenda, just like that thing. Dug out a bunch of thistles. Not got all of them. There's one that was missed. And this area is going to have to be weeded out. And then this blueberry bush is also just covered with blueberries. And then I'm going to take you up to the front yard and I'm going to show you some of the flowers that are blooming. I also planted a little hanging basket with purple petunias. These ones are a darker purple that sometimes go black. And that was with the leftover petunias. And that is back where we started. That is the update for this week.